Good evening.
Good evening. What a beautiful day we have.
Well, it is because I'm here.
Yes, it does take up for granted.
A reading from Mark's Gospel, chapter 5, starting at verse 21. When Jesus again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered round him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue rulers, named Jairus, came there. Seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her, so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors, and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once Jesus realized that the power had gone out for him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowded around you," the disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. And the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, she told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." While Jesus was still speaking, some men came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Ignoring what they said, Jesus told the synagogue ruler, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He did not let anyone follow him, except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue ruler, Jesus saw a commotion, with people crying and wailing. He went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After he had put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and walked around. She was 12 years old. At this they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this, and told them to give her something to eat. The story I'm sure you all well know, but there's lots of things in there. But there are lots of healings in the Bible. The Old Testament. Can you name one? Healing in the Old Testament? Naaman. Leprosy. And lots of healings in the Gospels and the rest of the New Testament. Healings of children. Healings of adults. Healings of Jews. Healings of Gentiles. Physical healings. Spiritual healings. Emotional healings. All sorts of healings. It didn't make any difference to Jesus. Young or old, Jew or Gentile. Physical, spiritual, emotional. And some of these healings involve some, human involvement sometimes. The man that was let down through the roof. That took 4 people to do that, human involvement. People taking the sick and the dying to Jesus. But the healings usually took place just by a word from Jesus or a touch by Jesus. In those days, touching an ill person, a sick person, would make the person touching them ceremonially unclean. There was a whole process of cleansing. Later on, Jesus raises Lazarus to the dead. He touched a dead body. He would have been spiritually unclean in their eyes. He touched the so-called dead girl, took her by the hand, again, classed as being unclean. But the woman in the crowd, she was unclean in Jewish eyes because she'd had an issue of blood for 12 years. And not only was she unclean because of her physical ailment, she wouldn't be able to go into the synagogue or the temple. So she was religiously unclean in that respect because she wasn't worshipping in the approved way. But these two healings, the healing of the woman and the healing of Jairus' daughter, follow on from another healing immediately after, because it says, lost it. When Jesus again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake. What was the other side of the lake where they came from? The land of the Gerasenes. And who had he healed there? The demoniac in the graveyard. Again, making him spiritually unclean in the Jewish eyes. So Jesus didn't care about all the procedures. If somebody wanted healing, he touched them or he spoke to them and they were healed. So Jesus has just done a marvellous healing of the demoniac, sailing back across the lake, landing and immediately surrounded by a crowd and approached by the local synagogue leader, Jairus. And Jairus does something again which wouldn't be approved of in Jewish society. He fell at his feet. A synagogue leader wouldn't fall at a man's feet who wasn't another synagogue leader or another high-ranking Jew. He put aside all the pride and his prejudice. His daughter was dying and he was desperate. We're not told if he had any other children. This child, a daughter, dying. And he put off all the convention and went to Jesus and begged him. Again, against convention, a synagogue leader wouldn't beg. So he begged Jesus to do something, and he fell at his feet. Jesus, compassionate as ever, accompanies him, followed by a large crowd. Some inquisitive, what's going to happen? Some sceptical, well, he won't heal this girl. A, she's a girl. B, she's a minor. And C, it's a synagogue leader's daughter. Some just hoping that Jesus would fail. Some just wanting to see a spectacle. So the crowd gather, the crowd follow Jesus. And then we're told about a woman whom we don't know her name. It's strange that people often are mentioned in the Bible, but we're not told her name. A desperate woman suffering for 12 years with the issue of blood. How did she know Jesus was living there? We don't know. Was it just possibly where she lived? But she was in a crowd and she was touching people. And so they would regard themselves as being unclean because they'd been touched by a woman who was regarded as very unclean. But she believed if she could have just touched Jesus' clothes, she would be healed. What faith? Great faith in this woman. We're not told anything else about her. But she had the faith and the desperation again. I'll try this because I've been to doctors, spent loads of money, I've got worse instead of better. Felt if I can just touch Jesus' cloak, I will be healed. Not I may be healed, or perhaps I'll be healed, but I will be healed. And she did. She managed to wiggle her way through the crowd, reach out and touch his cloak. And she was instantly healed, freed from 12 years of desperation, 12 years of bleeding, 12 years of stigma and rejection by the society in which she lived. And then Jesus knew some power had gone from him. How, we don't know. But he stopped and inquired, who touched me? And the disciples quietly said, come on, Jesus, we're in this big crowd, there's people all around you, and you're asking, who touched me? They've all touched you when they're around, because they'll all be reaching out to touch Jesus or jostling around. But eventually the woman owned up and was told, your faith has made you well. Her healing would mean she was no longer spiritually unclean and would be welcomed back into the synagogue. Yes, she'd had to go through the ceremonial cleansing in Jewish society, but she'd be welcomed back into the synagogue. She could worship in the synagogue. She could worship the God that she wanted to, accepted back into society. So all this is going on. And meanwhile, Jairus' daughter is back in the house, dying. And during that time, it appears that she died. The servants arrived to tell Jairus, your daughter has died. He has come out, he's put himself on the line to come to this rabbi, this healer, this person they don't know or really know, to be told, you wasted your time. Your daughter has died. Why bother the teacher any further? But Jesus says, no, we're going. Don't worry. Just have faith. And arriving at the house, he goes in with Peter, James and John and says, she's not dead. She's only sleeping. And all the mourners, they laugh at him in disbelief. Well, she's dying. We know she's died. We've seen dead people before. And you're saying she's only sleeping? Jesus put everyone out apart from James and John and Peter and the mum and dad, and took them into the room and said, touched her by the hand, saying, Talitha, come. And immediately the girl gets up and is well. So in this passage, and the bit before when I read, stories of 3 healings, the healing of demoniac, who no one could control or help. The healing of the woman who'd been ill for 12 years, again, who no one could help. Shunned by the community, not allowed into the synagogue, separated from society. And the healing of Jairus' daughter, who apparently was seriously ill at death's door. All were healed by Jesus like that, instantly. One with the word, one through faith, one by touch. How about that? No end to the ways that Jesus can heal. In one, the healing of demoniac, Jesus confronted the evil spirits. In another, he touched the sick person, ignoring the scorn, and gently touched the girl. 2 had been long-term problems. The demoniac and the woman. We're not told how long the girl had been ill, whether it was long-term or just recent. Long-term, short-term illnesses make no difference to Jesus. None of these events were minor, but they were instantly healed. And we noticed that the woman had been unclean, issue of blood, for 12 years. How old was Jairus' daughter? 12. Have you ever seen that before? And 12 in Jewish philosophy is a perfect number. We don't have to have serious illnesses or problems to come to Jesus for healing. Jesus can heal the serious and the desperate, as well as that which we think might be trivial. He can heal directly. He can heal indirectly or through others. Many years ago, well, a long time ago, I lived and worked in Watford, and I suffered with kidney stones. And every so often they were so severe, I finished up in hospital for a night, just for observation. And our then vicar's wife and a friend came to visit me, and my then wife was visiting. And they walked into the ward, and Janet, the vicar's wife, was limping. She twisted her ankle. So they sat and they prayed for me. And it was so bad that they couldn't come up by the stairs. They came up in the lift, which was not like Janet. She'd normally go up the stairs. They prayed with me, and they left the ward. And Janet walked down the stairs. Said, when I heard about that, I said, Janet, next time you want healing, I'm not going in the hospital. So anyone can be healed, anytime, anywhere. Doesn't have to be in church. It can be on a street corner. Maggie and I prayed for somebody in the supermarket a little while ago. We were just, trying to ask that thinking, we were just standing talking. We just touched her and, prayed with her. So we'll pray with anyone, anywhere. So I'm going to make an offer. If you'd like some prayers for healing, don't be shy. Don't put it off till tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes. Because tomorrow is the yesterday that you worried about today. You can have healing. Remember, the woman in the crowd, if only I can touch him, I will be healed. Remember Jairus, desperate, falling on his knees, pleading, if you are willing, you can make my daughter better. We don't suggest anyone needs to fall on their knees. Not suggest anyone has to be in a crowd. But anyway, can receive healing from Jesus at any time, in any place. So just come to Jesus, for him to touch you. Come expectantly, come openly, and metaphorically reach out and touch the hem of Jesus' garment, and you can be healed.
Amen.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
I was preaching that sermon when I was a missionary in Wilkinson. And people came up for prayer. And another member of the team, who was actually a doctor, was having real problems with her shoulder, and she was manipulating it and moving it, and nothing happened. I and a lady from the church prayed with her, and like that. Not me. Jesus.